This is Echo of Grace, and I want to start by admitting something deeply personal. I remember nights, and maybe you know these nights too, when the silence was the loudest sound in the room. I would pray until my throat burned, repeating the same requests, feeling this crushing weight that maybe, just maybe, I was talking to an empty sky. I felt forgotten. I felt like God was a distant CEO, too busy running the universe to deal with my small, insignificant heartbreak. If you've ever felt that raw, aching loneliness, please know that you are not broken. You are human. And that very feeling of distance is the first, most crucial step in understanding the hidden prayer formula that changes everything. We are here today to talk about a name, a promise, and a presence that unlocks divine help in a way that goes far beyond just asking for things. We are talking about the name Immanuel. Immanuel means God with us. Now stop for a second. Don't let that just be a nice church phrase. Really look at those three words: God with us. For years, I treated prayers like trying to send a text message to someone in another country. You hope it gets through, but you can't be sure. The Immanuel formula flips that on its head. It's not about reaching out to the distant shore. It's about realizing the shore is already standing right beside you. I want you to hold on to one simple image for this whole conversation. Think of your life as a small boat caught in a dense, swirling fog. When you're in that fog, you feel terrified. You can't see the lighthouse, you can't see the coastline, and you start to panic thinking you're completely lost at sea. But the coastline hasn't moved. The lighthouse is still shining. The problem isn't that God is distant. The problem is the density of the fog we allow to settle over our perception.
The biggest mistake we make in prayer is treating it as a performance, or a transaction, or a last-ditch effort. We only pray when we are desperate, trying to earn our way back into the light. But the Immanuel secret is that the light is inherent. It is already here, woven into the fabric of your experience, even the painful parts. This leads us directly into the first critical component of this ancient formula, a step that 9 out of 10 people skip entirely because it feels too simple. It's the difference between merely saying the word and actually experiencing the presence. You see, for most of my life, I focused on the asking part of prayer. I focused on the solution I wanted, the job, the healing, the relationship. But Immanuel demands that you shift your focus from the request to the recipient. The first hidden signal, the first element of this powerful formula, is what I call the reclamation of reality. If God is truly with us, then everything you are experiencing right now, the fear, the anxiety, the quiet joy, the stress about money, the cold coffee in your hand, is happening in His presence. It's not happening despite Him, it's happening with Him. When I was going through my darkest financial crisis, I used to hide that pain, even from God, thinking I had to clean myself up before I could approach Him. I used to scream into my pillow because I was too ashamed to admit to the divine how scared I was of being homeless. I know what that shame feels like. But the reclamation of reality means you stop trying to clean up the room before the guest arrives. The guest, Immanuel, is already sitting in the mess. This isn't just about saying thank you, God, for being here. It's about a radical, moment-by-moment acknowledgement. It's the opposite of escapism. It is choosing to be fully present in your current reality and inviting His presence to saturate it.
Let me ask you directly, are you truly present right now? Are you absorbing this, or are you already thinking about the next task on your list? Because if we don't master this first signal, this reclamation, the rest of the prayer formula is just empty noise. When you reclaim your reality, you stop trying to convince God to come down and solve your problems, and you start focusing on the fact that He is already solving them with you from the inside out. This shift in perspective is what changes the quality of your energy, your vital energy, your chi, if you want to call it that, and makes you receptive to divine instruction. This is fundamentally different from just being grateful. Gratitude is good, but reclamation is deeper.
It's recognizing the divine thread running through the ugly tapestry of today. And this leads us perfectly to the second signal, which is often mistaken for simple contemplation, but is actually a powerful tool of alignment. If the first step is realizing He is with you, the second step is learning how to see Him in the chaos. This is where we move past general faith and into specific, actionable spiritual vision. This specific spiritual vision is what separates those who simply survive the hard times from those who truly thrive in them. I remember a period in my life where my entire world felt like it was unraveling, a massive professional failure, a friendship that ended abruptly, and a feeling that no matter how hard I tried, I was just making the knots tighter. I would look at the mess of my life and just see chaos, feeling like God had simply forgotten my address. I know that feeling of deep, gut-wrenching loneliness, where you cry yourself to sleep thinking you are utterly abandoned. It is a heavy, heavy blanket to carry.
But the second signal of Emmanuel, the core of the God with us formula, is learning to look at those knots differently. We call this signal the sacred scar. It is the ability to see the divine purpose woven into the very fabric of your pain. Think of your life right now as a tapestry. When you are suffering, when you are in the middle of the struggle, you are only seeing the back of that tapestry. What do you see on the back? You see tangled, loose, ugly threads. You see colors that clash horribly. You see knots that seem pointless and messy. And the temptation is always to grab those loose threads and try to fix the pattern yourself, to pull the knot out, to force the colors to line up. But you cannot, because the master weaver, the one who is truly Emmanuel, is working on the other side. He is seeing the finished masterpiece, the beautiful image that those ugly knots are actually essential for. Your job is not to fix the back of the tapestry. Your job is simply to trust the design you cannot yet see. This trust is not passive resignation. It is an active spiritual vision, a choice to identify where the divine thread runs through the current mess. When the rent is late, when the diagnosis is scary, when the relationship is breaking, you pause, and you don't ask why this is happening to you, but what is being woven through you. This is the shift from victimhood to participation. Are you really letting this sink in? Because this is where most people quit the prayer formula. They want the knots gone instantly, instead of realizing the knots are the foundation for the deepest textures of the final work.
And this sacred vision naturally leads us into the third signal, which is often the most difficult to practice because it demands a surrender of control. If the first signal was realizing He is with you, and the second was learning to see His work, the third signal is letting His presence change your physical reaction to stress. This is what happens when you stop reacting and start simply observing. We can call this signal the silent witness. When you truly internalize the Immanuel principle, that God is physically present in the room with you, watching the situation unfold, your need to panic, to rush, or to over-explain completely dissolves. Think about it. If the King of the universe is sitting next to you on the sofa while you are receiving that stressful phone call, would you scream? Would you throw things? No. You would become calm, centered, and observant. You would trust His presence to handle the unseen variables. I know how hard it is to be silent when your world is screaming. I used to be the first one to jump into the fray, to send the angry email, to try and micromanage every disaster. That hyperreaction was actually a sign of deep insecurity, a screaming confirmation that I felt truly alone. But the silent witness means cultivating a sacred stillness, an internal quietude that says, I see the fire, but I do not need to fuel it because someone much stronger than me is already here. This stillness is not inaction. It is deeply powerful action. It is the space where divine instruction finally has room to land. When you are rushing and panicking, your mind is too loud to hear the subtle guidance. But when you become the silent witness, you create a vacuum of peace. And guess what rushes in to fill a vacuum? Clarity.
Another point that often trips people up when they try to achieve this stillness is confusing it with emotional numbness. This is a crucial distinction. Being the silent witness does not mean you suppress your pain or your fear. It means you acknowledge the fear. I see you, fear. I know you are here. But you choose not to let fear drive the car. You allow the emotion to pass through you like a cloud across the sky, knowing that the sun, the presence of Emmanuel, remains constant behind it. And this non-reactive observation is incredibly magnetic to the divine. When you stop fighting the current circumstances, you stop draining your vital energy. You conserve your strength for the moment of divine instruction. And this brings us to a significant error I see 99% of people making when they attempt this prayer formula, which is confusing effort with force. They think that because they have to be a silent witness, they need to force themselves into silence, gripping their teeth and holding their breath. That is stress disguised as spirituality. True stillness is effortless. It is a letting go. It is leaning back into the great design of the tapestry. It is realizing that if Emmanuel is truly with you, then the burden is not yours alone. This is a profound liberation. I remember trying to force myself to feel peaceful during a particularly challenging financial crisis. I would meditate and just feel more anxious because I was trying so hard to suppress the truth. It wasn't until I truly confessed, "God, I am terrified and I cannot fix this," that the stillness finally arrived. It wasn't my strength. It was the realization that His strength was already present, waiting for me to step aside.
So, the next time the stress hits, before you text, before you react, before you start yelling at the messy threads of the tapestry, I want you to try this simple practice. Close your eyes for 30 seconds and repeat this phrase, "He is here." And then, just observe the feeling of your own body relaxing, giving permission for the stillness to enter. This shift from frantic action to peaceful observation is the gateway to the fourth signal. That shift from frantic action to peaceful observation is the gateway to the fourth signal, which I call the unexpected compass. You see, when we are frantic, it's like being in a small boat during a storm. We are rowing against the wind, splashing water, and completely focused on the immediate threat. We cannot see the shore, and we certainly cannot see the stars or the compass. But when we allow ourselves that moment of stillness, that 30 seconds of simply knowing He is here, the boat doesn't stop moving, but our frantic rowing stops. And suddenly, for the first time, we can hear the quiet whisper of the current. The unexpected compass is that quiet, clear instruction that comes not from loud thunder, but from a gentle breeze. It's not the big dramatic miracle, but the clarity about the next small step. For me, during that financial crisis I mentioned, the unexpected compass wasn't a lottery win. It was the sudden, undeniable realization that I needed to call one specific person I hadn't spoken to in years. I had resisted that call for months because of pride, but in the stillness, the resistance vanished, and the path forward was laid bare. I know how hard it is to trust this quiet voice. I also know what it feels like to pray for a massive sign and only receive silence. I felt that silence for so long, thinking God only spoke through prophets or burning bushes. But the truth is, Emmanuel speaks through the small, practical, and often inconvenient nudges of our intuition.
This leads us directly to the fifth signal, which is often mistaken for just luck, but it's actually divine arrangement. This signal is the synchronization of resources. Listen closely, because this is where most people quit the journey. They get the guidance, they get the compass reading, but they look at their empty hands and say, "I don't have the money, I don't have the skills, I don't have the time." We are conditioned to believe that we must gather all the resources before we start moving, but the formula works differently. The synchronization of resources means that the moment you take the first step based on the quiet guidance, the universe starts rearranging itself to support your move. It means the person you need to meet is suddenly in the coffee shop line behind you. It means the book you need to read falls off the shelf. It means the perfect job listing appears 5 minutes after you decide to quit the one that was killing your soul. I remember when I finally decided to leave a toxic environment. I had zero savings, and honestly, I was terrified of being judged. I genuinely thought I was going to fail, and I cried for 3 days straight, feeling like an absolute fool for choosing faith over security. But the moment I made the commitment, the very next morning, a friend I hadn't spoken to in ages reached out, offering a short-term paid project that covered my rent for 2 months. It wasn't a coincidence. It was the synchronized arrangement responding to my step of faith. You are probably nodding along right now, thinking about the times this has happened to you, but maybe you dismissed it as chance. Stop dismissing your miracles. They are proof that Emmanuel is actively working on your behalf. And this brings us to the final, and perhaps the most powerful signal in this hidden prayer formula, the anchor of gratitude.
It sounds simple, but this is the mechanism that locks the entire process into place. Gratitude is not just a nice feeling, it is the spiritual technology that prevents fear from returning and hijacking your ship. Think about our metaphor of the boat. We've stopped rowing frantically, we've found the compass, and the current is moving us gently. But if we don't drop the anchor of gratitude, the moment a new wave hits, we forget the entire journey and immediately start panicking again. We forget the stillness, we forget the compass, and we start fighting the water. The anchor of gratitude requires that you consciously look back at the past 24 hours and identify 3 specific instances where you felt supported, guided, or sustained. Not 3 big things. Maybe it was just the perfect cup of coffee, the patience you found when dealing with a difficult person, or the fact that you woke up without pain. This simple daily practice recalibrates your mind from scarcity to abundance. It tells your soul, we are safe. We were taken care of yesterday, and we will be taken care of today. I used to be terrible at this. I would achieve a major goal and immediately focus on the next problem. It was exhausting. I was living in a perpetual state of not enough. It took me years of falling back into anxiety cycles to realize that if I didn't acknowledge the sustaining presence of Emmanuel in the small things, I would never trust him with the big things. So let's bring this all together. The hidden prayer formula isn't about demanding things from God. It is about creating the internal space for his presence, Emmanuel, God with us, to manifest the solution. It starts with the radical confession of your vulnerability. I am weak, and I cannot do this alone. That is the first signal. Then comes the intentional step of stillness, allowing yourself to feel his presence in the midst of the fear, the second and third signals. This leads to the unexpected compass, the clear, quiet guidance for the next step. Then the universe responds with the synchronization of resources, providing what you need exactly when you need it. And finally, the anchor of gratitude locks that faith in, making you unshakable for the next storm. This is not a formula for magic. It is a blueprint for relationship. It is the acknowledgement that you are never sailing alone. I want you to remember this. You do not need to pray louder. You need to listen deeper. You do not need to be stronger. You need to be more honest about your weakness. If you have watched this far, I know you are seeking true peace, not just temporary fixes. I know that feeling of deep yearning for connection and direction. I promise you, the peace you seek is not outside of you. It is the natural consequence of accepting the presence that is already within you, Emmanuel. I truly hope that this message has touched your heart and given you a new way to approach your struggles. If this conversation resonated with you and you are ready to continue cultivating this kind of deep internal peace, I invite you to join our community. There is a lot more wisdom and practical guidance that we share every week. If you felt a shift while listening to this, if you feel a tiny bit lighter right now, please let me know in the comments below. Share your favorite signal from this formula. Which one felt the most challenging or the most comforting for you right now? And if you know someone who is rowing frantically in their own stormy sea right now, please share this message with them. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give a suffering friend is simply the reminder that they are not alone. Thank you for allowing me to share this sacred space with you today. May the peace of Emmanuel guide your ship safely home. Until next time, take care.